4:12 a.m. coastal Fujian province. Multiple Chinese missile brigades break concealment almost simultaneously. Transporter erector launchers turn toward pre-surveyed routes facing the Taiwan Strait. No exercise notice is issued, no launch authority is declared, but satellite imagery shows dispersion. Wide, deliberate, irreversible once begun. Across the strait, Taiwanese command centers escalate alert levels within minutes. Aircraft are held on ground standby. Naval patrols alter spacing. Civilian air traffic begins quiet rerouting. No missile leaves its rail. Yet the balance shifts instantly. Because when missile units move, they are no longer a threat in theory. They become a countdown. And the question is no longer if something happens, but who blinks first. The movement you just witnessed is not an isolated maneuver. It sits at the center of a military equation that has been tightening for decades between China and Taiwan, an equation where missiles matter more than ships, aircraft, or even troops. Since the mid-1990s, Beijing has treated the Taiwan question as a problem of access and denial, not invasion timing. The logic is simple: before any aircraft can fly or any fleet can sail, the defender must be blinded, disrupted, and pressured psychologically. That mission belongs primarily to the PLA rocket force. Its role is not just to strike, but to shape decisions before the first shot. Over the last decade, China has steadily expanded a dense belt of short and medium-range ballistic and cruise missiles along its southeastern coast. These systems, designed to target air bases, ports, radar sites, and command nodes, are positioned to cover nearly all Taiwan within minutes of launch. Mobility is the key. Fixed silos can be mapped. Mobile launchers cannot. Once they disperse, they force the other side to assume the worst. For Taiwan, this creates a permanent dilemma. Every confirmed missile movement compresses reaction time. Aircraft must decide whether to disperse or stay sheltered. Ships must weigh concealment against readiness. Commanders must choose between signaling calm or preparing for escalation. None of these choices are neutral, and all of them are visible to the opponent. Geography sharpens the pressure. The Taiwan Strait is narrow enough that missiles don't need to fly far, but wide enough that intentions can remain ambiguous until the last moment. That ambiguity is not accidental, it is strategic. What makes missile movements especially destabilizing is that they sit below the threshold of war while carrying the weight of war itself. They are legal, they are silent, and once they begin reversing them is politically costly. This is why a convoy on a coastal highway can trigger regional alert levels without a single launch command being issued. On China's southeastern coast, routine logistics traffic began to deviate from established patterns. Convoys departed earlier than scheduled. Support vehicles spaced farther apart than during exercises. Communication nodes switched to hardened, low probability of intercept modes. None of these actions meant war on their own. Together, they formed a recognizable sequence. For Taiwan's early warning system, the first confirmations came from space. Electro-optical satellites picked up fresh tire tracks near known missile garrisons. Within minutes, automated systems cross-referenced these images with historical databases. The conclusion was not that missiles were about to launch, but that they were being positioned to launch quickly. Inside Taiwanese command centers, the mood shifted from routine monitoring to controlled tension. Operators did not rush. They couldn't afford to. False positives are dangerous, but silence can be worse. Intelligence officers began updating probability models, dispersal radius, estimated readiness windows, likely target sets. Each update narrowed the margin for error. Human factors mattered as much as technology. Senior officers were awakened quietly, not by alarms, but by secure messages. Decisions now carried consequences, even if nothing happened next. Across the strait, Chinese planners were asking a different set of questions. Was the movement being detected as intended? Were response patterns matching expectations? Missile deployments are not just about firepower, they are about observation. Every reaction is data, every adjustment feeds future planning. By mid-morning, the situation is fully transitioned from intelligence assessment to operational posture. Nothing has exploded, no official statements have been released. Yet on both sides of the Taiwan Strait, forces are no longer operating on peacetime assumptions. Along China's coast, the missile units complete their dispersal phase. Launchers do not cluster. They spread farther than in most exercises using pre-surveyed hide sites, highway cutouts, reinforced forest clearings, and hardened civilian infrastructure built for exactly this purpose. Support vehicles peel away to separate locations. From above, the pattern looks fragmented. On the ground, it is disciplined and deliberate. This matters because dispersion changes timelines. A missile brigade on the move can shift from hours of warning to minutes. Commanders on the receiving end understand this instantly. It is not the missile itself that creates pressure, it is the uncertainty of when it could leave the rail. Across the strait, Taiwan's military begins quiet adjustments. Aircraft remain grounded but armed. Crews sit in cockpits longer than usual, engines cold waiting. Naval units widen their patrol arcs, increasing distance without appearing to retreat. Air defense systems rotate radar modes, balancing detection with survivability. Each move is calculated to avoid signaling panic while still reducing vulnerability. Inside command rooms, conversations are brief and restrained. There is no debate about intentions, only about probabilities. Is this coercive signaling a rehearsal or preparation for a contingency that may never be executed? The answers don't matter as much as the consequences of being wrong. Meanwhile, this entire exchange is being observed by third parties. Regional allies reroute surveillance flights. Intelligence sharing channels light up. Commercial shipping companies quietly alter routes. A military movement has begun to ripple outward economically, politically, strategically without a single shot fired. What makes this phase uniquely dangerous is its asymmetry. One side controls escalation tempo through movement alone. The other must respond defensively, knowing that overreaction could justify the very action it seeks to avoid. This is pressure without provocation, leverage without violence. This is the modern battle space. No smoke, no sound, no countdown, only decisions stacking on top of decisions, each narrowing the space for error. At this point, nothing has happened, but operationally, everything already has. The defensive response begins without ceremony. No press briefings, no public alerts. Inside Taiwan's command network, the shift is procedural and relentless. Air defense units move first. Radar operators cycle through emission control profiles, reducing predictability while maintaining coverage. Mobile surface-to-air missile batteries reposition in short bounds, never staying long enough to be mapped with confidence. Air power is treated as a fragile asset. Fighters remain on ground alert rather than rushing into the air where they would be easier to track. Hardened shelters are sealed. Secondary runways are prepared quietly. The goal is survival, not signaling. Deny the adversary the certainty of a clean first strike. At sea, naval commanders widen spacing and alter headings, not retreating, not advancing, just enough change to complicate targeting models. Missile defense ships position themselves to provide overlapping coverage, knowing full well that interception is never guaranteed. Psychology plays a decisive role here. Every defensive move must balance readiness with restraint. Too visible, and it feeds escalation narratives. Too subtle, and it risks vulnerability. Commanders operate in a narrow corridor where doing nothing is dangerous and doing too much may be worse. What makes missile pressure uniquely effective is that it forces defense to react continuously while offense remains still. Launchers wait. Defenders move. The asymmetry drains attention, time, and political capital. This is deterrence under strain, not through firepower, but through sustained uncertainty. And as long as missile units remain deployed, the burden of stability rests on the side that does not control the trigger. The power of this moment does not come from a single missile system, but from how several layers of technology interact once launchers begin to move. China's coastal missile units rely on mobility, concealment, and timing. Transporter erector launchers are designed to survive by never being predictable. Once dispersed, they exploit civilian road networks, hardened storage points, and natural cover to complicate detection. From a technical standpoint, this forces the defender into a losing race. Finding every launcher is harder than moving them. Ballistic and cruise missiles serve different roles in this equation. Ballistic missiles compress response time. Even short-range systems can reach targets across the strait in minutes, leaving little room for interception or relocation. Cruise missiles slower, but terrain-hugging, complicate radar coverage and force defenders to split attention between altitude layers. Used together, they overwhelm decision-making more than defenses. On the defensive side, missile interception is probabilistic, not absolute. Systems are built to increase survival odds, not guarantee protection. Interceptors must be cued, assigned, and fired within narrow windows. Saturation is not required. Uncertainty alone forces dispersion of assets and delays counteraction. Technically, nothing here violates red lines. No warheads are armed publicly, no firing solutions are announced. Yet every subsystem involved, from sensors to command networks, is operating closer to wartime parameters than peacetime doctrine ever intended. That is the hidden function of missile movement. It weaponizes time, not explosives. And once time becomes the battlefield, even restraint carries risk. The immediate effect of the missile movement is regional tension. The longer effect is behavioral change. Once China demonstrates the ability to reposition missile units rapidly along the coast facing Taiwan, every actor recalibrates. For Taiwan, operational planning shifts from prevention to endurance. Bases are treated as temporary. Sortie generation becomes a question of survival timing rather than availability. Civil defense messaging tightens even if the public hears nothing specific. Silence itself becomes policy. For China, the impact is informational. Missile movements test response thresholds without crossing them. Which actions trigger dispersal? Which trigger restraint? Every reaction, military, political, economic, is logged. Deterrence is refined not by force but by observation. Beyond the strait, the ripple spreads quickly. Regional partners reassess patrol patterns, intelligence sharing intensifies, commercial shipping insurers adjust premiums, financial markets factor in risk that never makes headlines. A military posture change has quietly altered economic behavior. This is where missile pressure proves most effective. It imposes costs without combat. It forces preparation without justification for retaliation. And it normalizes a higher baseline of tension that benefits the side comfortable operating closest to the edge. The strategic danger lies in accumulation. Each incident that ends without incident lowers the perceived risk of repeating it. Each repetition increases the chance that one day conditions won't align. An aircraft misreads intent, a radar glitch escalates posture, a political deadline compresses decision-making. Nothing about this moment guarantees conflict, but it reshapes the environment in which future decisions will be made. And environments matter. They define what leaders believe is possible, acceptable, or survivable. Missiles didn't fly, but strategic gravity shifted. What unfolded along China's coast was not a rehearsal for headlines and not a prelude to immediate war. It was something more precise and more unsettling, a demonstration of control without contact. Missile units moved not to fire but to force decisions. They compressed timelines, narrowed options, and shifted responsibility onto the defender. In doing so, they showed how modern conflict increasingly operates in the space between peace and war, where pressure is applied through posture, not explosions. For Taiwan, the lesson is stark. Survival in this environment depends less on stopping every missile than on enduring uncertainty longer than the opponent expects. Dispersal, resilience, and discipline become strategic weapons in their own right. The goal is not to win the first exchange, but to deny the adversary confidence that the first exchange would succeed. For China, the message is equally clear. Missile mobility is leverage. It tests reactions, maps thresholds, and reshapes behavior without triggering retaliation. But leverage cuts both ways. The closer forces operate to wartime posture, the less room remains for error, misinterpretation, or political miscalculation. For the wider world, this episode offers a warning. The most consequential military actions today may look uneventful on the surface. No footage, no casualty counts, no breaking news banners. Yet beneath that calm, systems are stressed, decisions accelerated, and norms quietly rewritten. The danger is not that missiles will suddenly fly tomorrow. The danger is that repeated moments like this make flying them feel inevitable. Understanding these dynamics before the silence breaks is no longer optional. Bye for now.